Hello, my name is Denise Walker, and I'll be your instructor today. Today we're going to talk about sexually transmitted diseases, also known as STDs. So by show of hands, how many of you are sexually active or know someone who is? At this point, I expect the students to raise their hand. Some will, some won't. Some may be too embarrassed to raise their hand, or some just may not care to share that information with the class. So at that point, they'll put their hands down and I'll say, well, from personal experience or through your friends, I'm pretty sure all of you know that are not always pretty. Basically, you can catch sexually transmitted diseases, or you can have unexpected pregnancy. So basically today we're going to talk a little bit about when things get ugly. We're going to discuss the signs and symptoms of STDs. So let's get started. I have three objectives basically I want you guys to reach by the end of the class. First, I want you all to be able to describe the signs and symptoms of STDs. Next, I want you to be able to separate into two categories, curable and non-curable. And I also want you to be able to describe how you can prevent catching the STD. So to start things off, we're going to play a game called the handshake game. At this point, I will hand each student an index card. Some of them will have the letter X on it. Some will have do not follow my instructions. Some will have a C, and some will have a Z, and some will have a O. At this point, I will expect each student to get up and move around the classroom. They will each collect 3 signatures by shaking hands, and they'll sign each other cards. Once they get those 3 signatures, they will sit down. I will give them about 10 minutes to complete this activity, and once everyone is seated again, I will continue on with the lesson. Now, the people who have the card that says do not follow my instructions are expected not to shake hands or give signatures. So we'll continue on. Everyone's having a seat. I'm pretty sure you're wondering, why did I do this? What's this for? Well, let's find out. If you have the following cards, I want you to stand up: O, Z, or X. So at this point, I'll give those students a little bit of time to stand up. A select few, small group, will be standing up. Next, if you came in contact or shook hands with anyone who is standing up, I need you to stand up. So then some more students will stand up. If you're sitting down, you see someone you came in contact with standing up, join them in standing up. So more students will stand up. And I'll ask one more time, if you see anyone that you shook hands with standing up, you need to stand up also. Only people who should be sitting down at this point are the ones who have the card that said do not follow my instructions. But the students do not know this yet. They just know that some people are sitting down and not understanding why. So what do your cards mean? Well, unfortunately, if you have the Z, you were exposed to HIV. The O means you're exposed to chlamydia, and the X means you were exposed to genital herpes. So that means you and anyone you shook hands with could have possibly caught this sexually transmitted disease. Surprising, right? Just that fast, you guys were exposed to something and didn't know it. So at this point, I need all of you guys to have a seat. Next, I need the students who have the card that says do not follow my instructions to stand up. This lucky group basically abstained from sex and therefore was completely protected from any of the STDs that the rest of the group was exposed to. So you guys have a seat also. And last but not least, I need the people who have the letter C in their card to stand up. This group had sex or shook hands in this case, but they wore a condom. Therefore, although they were exposed to the STDs that were out there, they were protected and they didn't contract them due to wearing a condom. So you guys have a seat also. So we all know that having sex doesn't require shaking hands and that it does not cause you to catch STDs or transmit them. So let's discuss the truth about STDs. I'm going to show you guys a video that's about 7 minutes long, and basically it will go over the signs and symptoms of STDs. It will also talk about how they're spread and how you can prevent them. So once the video is over, we'll have basically an open discussion. There's 3 main questions that I ask. The first one is, how did playing the handshake game make you feel? Some students may have enjoyed it, some students may have hated it, others may have found it very informational and would really let them know like how fast and how easy it is to catch an STD. So that will be discussed. Next, I'll ask them, does this lesson make you want to change your sexual activity? Does it make you want to use condoms if you haven't used them? Does it make you want to stop sex completely? Did it scare them half to death? We'll talk about that and why they feel that way. And last, I would want them to discuss the fact that the students with the OZ and X card did not know that they had a sexually transmitted diseases when they were coming in contact with everyone. Do you believe that this happens in real life? Do people really go around not knowing they had something and giving it to other people? Some students may argue that it can happen. Others don't believe it's true, especially watching the video. You hear about all the symptoms that they come with. How can you not know if you have these things? So we'll have them debate and talk about that. And last, I'll open the floor for questions and comments. They may have questions about what they talked about in the video, about the game period, or just have stories to share about things that happened in their life. So our next activity, we'll make a diagram. I will give everyone a blank sheet of paper similar to this and some markers. So basically what they'll be doing is taking the STDs that were covered in the video and putting them into two categories, curable and non-curable. So their diagram, they'll get about 10-15 minutes, however long it takes for them to make their diagrams, and they can decorate them in working groups or whatever, but everyone needs to complete one, and they'll be take it home with them. And basically it'll be similar to this. The STDs that should be ranked curable are syphilis, gonorrhea, chlamydia, and trichomoniasis. And the ones that are incurable are HIV, AIDS, HPV, and genital herpes. So that's how their diagram should look. Last, I remind the students that the only effective, completely 100% effective way to not get STDs is by being abstinent. But they can greatly decrease their chance of catching them by wearing condoms if they are sexually active. So we all want to avoid STDs. And if we are sexually active, make sure we get tested. That way we find out what we have and can get it treated. Because although a lot of them are curable, having them for a long time untreated can cause severe damage to your reproductive organs. And some people even become infertile due to that. So that's the end of my lesson. Here's my reference slide, and then the multiple challenges that I covered. The handshake game was body and naturalness. Video presentation, visual, verbal, and rhythmic. Discussion, interpersonal, and verbal. And last, the diagram activity was visual, logical, and interpersonal. So thank you. That's the end of my lesson.